All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome back to True Crime Loser. How you doing this morning? That's good. So today we are going over the Justin Ross Harris interrogation, and it is a bizarre one. There's so many moments of just sitting there being like, what is with these people? At first, so just to catch everybody up, he left his 22-month-old son in the car and worked all day. And then noticed his dead body in the car seat on the way home, pulled over, called 911, tried to revive him a little bit, and then other people that around took over. The police got there, brought him down to the station, and here we go. They put him in the room alone for a bit, and he's crying, and it seems to me to be real. And if it's an act, it's the best acting that we've seen. There are a few weird parts, but I think you would just be doing weird things. One of them is he's like kind of panicking, going, and then he snaps out of it and like takes a drink of water and then pops, so he goes, and it's like, is this guy just a weird dude, or did he just murder his son? It's one of those age-old questions, like, is this guy kind of just a boner, or is he a murderer? It's hard to get a read. And so he's crying, and then the weird thing is he's bawling and hyperventilating, and then the detectives come in, and he almost turns into a detective on his own, just stoic. I do, absolutely. He loves the word absolutely. Do you work at Home Depot? Absolutely. I do. And something I noticed is he has very short answers for a lot of things where he just goes, I do. Absolutely. And then other things, he rambles like a murderer. There's one question they ask him. I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but there's one question they ask him is like, how did you know you were going to be late that morning? And his answer sounds totally made up. And then another thing is, I at least know one time he's lying, because towards the beginning they want to look at his phone, and old Justin Ross Harris has a lot of sexting going on that phone. So he does not want them to see it. So they go, what's your password? And he was like, I got no idea. It's biometrics, which it's not. And he knows exactly what the password of his phone is. And so you get to see him. So I was trying to watch that little chunk of him lying. I watched it like 5 times in a row to try to recognize other times when he's lying, and I don't know if I got much, but anyway, here we go. So he was like a jailer, or he worked in law enforcement at some point, and he really wants them to know that. Just, I'm one of you guys. Absolutely. I am absolutely one of you guys. And so, he's talking to them, just, the crying is over. Now it's just, I do. And he makes a joke. They're going through just the kind of paperwork at the beginning, and they ask him, is English your first language? And he goes, it is. And if it's not, I'm doing pretty good. What a joke. Strange time to make a joke, and I don't know if he's just in shock. That's the thing, is it's just like, is this guy just in shock and it's just a horrible accident? Or is he just a complete psychopath and he's joking right after? You speak English? I do, and if I don't, I'm doing good. Yes! Crushing. All right, so really this interrogation is just they ask him what happened. They go through the story, then they asked him what happened again. They kind of go through it again. I would have liked a little more pressure at some point towards the end. I had this feeling of like, we're here. Let's do it. Ask him if he's. They never asked him if he was cheating or anything like that, and that's usually a guaranteed question in these interrogations. They always set it up with, "I know this is hard, but are you cheating on somebody, or has there been cheating going on?" Because that's huge in when a couple's kid winds up dead. I feel like that's a very important. Is there infidelity? What's going on with that? And they never really asked it. But anyway, so they say, all right, run us through. The detectives know what happened. They know he's not trying to hide what happened, and so they just want to hear his story and try to come up with any inconsistencies or any parts that raise red flags. And so it's just run us through it, and we're going to sit here and take notes. And so he runs them through the story. They woke up. Wife went to work. They were running late. He let his son sleep in a little bit. They weren't going to go to Chick-fil-A, and then they were running a little behind. And so he decided today's the day for a little Chick-fil-A. They go to Chick-fil-A. He goes out of his way to say that, they know him there and that they saw him there. And I got a little feeling of like, is he trying to just prove that they were there or something? I don't know. But goes to Chick-fil-A, he's supposed to bring him to daycare, just doesn't, forgets. He equates it way later. They interrogate him for about 45 minutes, and then his wife comes in, which is just all types of bizarre. But he equates it to just a brain fart. Just a brain fart. Chalk it up to a brain fart. I was going to go to daycare, and then, sorry, forgot. And again, the crying is all gone. He's telling these stories. He told one about how after Chick-fil-A, he puts him in the car seat and he straps him in. And he goes, I strapped him in with the proper regulations that we saw on YouTube. It's like, all right, dude, we get it. You're a great dad. He was like, I strapped him into regulations and I kissed him and I told him I loved him because I always do that in case we get in a crash. Maybe his last memory will be me telling him I love him. It's just like, given the circumstances, kind of a weird story to tell, but just keep going. And it's just, all right, so then forgot, drove to work, went in, worked, went to lunch with friends. They went to Publix for lunch, which is the same place that Gran Amato was hanging out at the time that he offed his whole family. Publix brings out the best in people. That's their new ad. It's just Publix, where's your family? Publix, we have Wi-Fi if you need to talk to Sylvie. So they go to Publix for lunch. He goes back to work. And then on the way home, or he goes back, he buys light bulbs, which is is represented in like cartoons by having a good idea. Just ding, light bulbs. So we bought some light bulbs, brought him back to his car, worked the rest of the day, and then drove home, said he lost it. Pulled over, and then a big chunk that I think probably why he got charges as bad as he did is at one point he goes, I was going to revive him, but I just knew he was gone. I just knew. And the police are like, how'd you know? They don't like to hear that. Shanna Huber said that. I just knew. I shot him, so I knew. Chris Watts, way back in the day, when he was saying that Shanann did it, they were like, how did you know? And he's like, they were blue. They were blue. And if it is a true accident, I think a lot of people would just keep doing CPR. There's not a moment where you go, well, I know that it's over. You're just going to keep going. And that's supported by, like, Bella and Cece woke up, you know. Chris thought that he had, so, you know, I just knew. I think that was a point where the detectives were like, all right. And then another weird part is right after that, he goes, I frantically called the daycare. He didn't call his wife right away. He called the daycare to tell them to keep her there. And they're like, you called the daycare? And he goes, yeah, I called the daycare. I didn't want my wife to get there and to think he was missing. That's kind of weird, right? Don't worry, babe. I promise he's not missing. Don't worry. Definitely not missing. So that's kind of weird. Same with Chris Watts. Called the daycare right away. And then they're like, we're going to want to look at your phone. He's like, that's fine. And they're like, what's the passcode? And he just knows there's a bunch of underage sexting. When a detective is asking, hey, what's your passcode to your phone on the day that you either murdered your son or just accidentally manslaughtered your son, or I don't know. They're like, what's your passcode? And he just knows he sexted all day. He goes, it's 0, you know what? I have no idea. It's biometric, which is like fingerprint or something. And they never asked if he was cheating or doing anything like that, which I think was a loss. Or I guess you got to have people on the outside of the interrogation going through his phone and to try to get, give something to detectives, because they're just kind of listening to the story. Another weird thing that he does is they're like, all right, what's the name of the teacher at daycare? And he spells their name with like military or law enforcement. So he's like, her name is Emily Echo Romeo, and I think it just goes back. He's trying to get, like, we're all the same here. I used to be a law enforcement officer. You guys are currently law enforcement. This is just a misunderstanding. I just had a little brain fart, ski, and it's just all sad. And so he's like, Echo Romeo, while he's spelling them stuff. And they go, how's your relationship? He's like, good. I think it's good. And he makes another joke. He goes, guess we'll find out if that's true or not. Like saying, like, with this whole situation. Just think of that joke. Is your relationship good? Yeah, it is good. But I guess that the fact that I killed our son today, well, guess we'll test that. We'll figure it out. Guess we'll find out if that's true. So funny, Justin. How's the money? It's good. And some of this stuff, it starts to get the feeling of like at one point he's kind of just rambling on, being like, we have good credit scores. Both my wife and I, credit scores are above 720. And it's just like, your son died today. Very few people want to talk about their credit score on the day their kid didn't die. That's like my least favorite subject. It's just, I don't know. I think a lot of people, it just wouldn't come up. you lose your kid and you're like, my wife and I's credit score is pretty solid, 720, above 720. And they talk about the car seat, which they had like another car seat situation and they would switch it out. They had a front facing one, and then 2 weeks before, because this one was switched to this car and blah, 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 2 weeks before, the rear facing one was moved into his car. So it's either a coincidence or part of this crazy psychotic plan. I have no idea. And then we get to the point where he's talking. They're asking him again, basically just like, all right, go over it again. He's like, we were gonna do our daddy and son Chick-fil-A, and they ask him, how did you know you were gonna be late that morning? And he just kind of rambles about. He was like, well, Cooper was sleeping in and my wife already left, and it was roughly 7 o'clock, and I just knew. And so parts of it, it's like, absolutely, I do, absolutely. And then other parts, it's like, how did you know you're going to be late that morning? It's like, well, it was roughly 7:10, and Cooper likes to sleep, and so my wife has a job, which she did leave for early, and there is no specific time she normally leaves, but I was going to cook breakfast, but I wanted to let Cooper sleep in, so I decided we would go to Chick-fil-A. And so it's hard to gauge. He's like very one word, absolutely, at times. And then on other times, it's like this long where he's saying like roughly and Echo Romeo and it's just hard to gauge on if he's just a weird kind of I don't even know, just kind of a boner, or if he's just in shock, or I couldn't really get a read on it. And he starts to get a little bit tired of talking around this point, and they're asking him, about his job at Home Depot, and they go, how long did you work at that job? And he goes, I'm dying here, man. Saying like, I don't know if I can keep answering these questions. He goes, I am dying here. I'm dying here, man. And the detective, I love it, just goes, believe me, you have my condolences. And then the guy goes, how long you been working there? And he just goes, 2 years. And it's just right back into questioning. His attempt of like, I'm dying here, you guys. I don't know how long I can do this. And the detective just ends it all with going, believe me, you have my condolences. That's what I'm going to use. Next time my girlfriend's really mad at me, I'm just going to go, believe me, you have my condolences. I promise you. Okay? They're there. Believe me. And so it's like, how long you been working there? He's like, I'm dying here. Believe me, you have my condolences. How long you been working there? 2 years. So his attempt to just be like, guys, I can't do this anymore does not last long. And then he goes, all right, we're going to ask you some personal questions. And I thought for sure this was going to be like, are you cheating? Has she cheated? Have you ever thought about cheating? Is there someone at work that you like? But it was more like, have you done this before? Left him in the car? And he's like, no. And it's like, he was like, no, I've never done this before. And I saw a news story where someone did exactly what I did, and now they're an advocate against it. And then I saw another one where like a vet did an experiment in the car about how hot it gets and how pets can't be in there. And he just starts rambling about these news stories he saw. And the detectives, I think, are just sitting there being like, I don't know if anything helped sway them in either direction. it's hard to tell with this one. And so he's like, yeah, I saw a news story. We're like, okay, that's good, I guess. And then they're like, we're charging your phone. We really need to. And they're like, it does have a passcode. And he was like, oh, yeah, it's my anniversary. And he just knows. All right. And then, so the last 3 minutes of the 45 is the only part that kind of sounds like an interrogation. The other part is just like, all right, tell us the story. Okay, you know. And so in like the last 3 minutes, they're talking and he's, you know, confident. Absolutely, I do. And he just goes, okay, well, we're going to bring you back. We're going to put you in a cell. And Justin goes, I'm sorry? And we're like, yeah, we're going to put you in a cell. And he goes, any reason? And it would have been great if he was like, no, we're not here for any reason. But he goes, any reason? He goes, yeah, you're being charged. And the whole vibe of Justin changes. I think he thought he was just going to go, yep, brain fart, Home Depot. I saw a news story. I don't know. Oopsie daisies. And go home. He was like, well, you're being charged. And Justin goes, what information is that based off of? And the detective just goes, the fact that your son was in the car all day. What information was that based off of? Excuse me, sir? And he's like, this was completely unintentional. I have no history of child abuse. I have no history of domestic violence. And it's like, your actions. The detective goes, your actions caused the death of your child. And he just goes, absolutely. But it was an accident. And they were like, yeah, but, you know, it's your actions caused the death of your child. And he goes, I would disagree slightly. That's another good one. I would like to disagree slightly with that one. All right, so then that's it for him and the detectives. And then his wife comes in. And this is the one where it's the part where it's just like, she comes in and is horrifyingly calm. And I don't know if she is just the strongest woman ever and is just trying to keep her family together, or if she's in on it, or if she's not in on it and just a psycho, or if she is in shock or what. But she comes in and they have such a bizarre conversation. One, she's sitting in a chair, like leaning with her head in his lap with like her back arched and her ass out. And he's just like, I'm so sorry. And she's like, I know you are, baby. I know you are. I know you're sorry. And a lot of the comments on the interrogation are like, I could never, I don't care how much I love my husband. I don't care if it was an accident. I couldn't just like lay in his lap, rubbing his thighs, being like, no, you're sorry. I know. Just a brain fight. And so they go on this whole, like, you know, he's like, I'm sorry I put you through this. And she's like, we've been through stuff before. And he's like, but not this. And it's just crazy how just calm. And I could see why some people think she's in on it, because her behavior just doesn't match up with a large percentage of people, how they would act in that situation. And they even talk about, like, at one point, like, having more kids. And he's like, I wanted a family. I want a family. We had a family. We'll have one. You know, how horrifying would it be if they were in cahoots I don't know if I don't think they are, but if they were in cahoots, she never even got charged. He got charged, but he's getting a retrial. He gets off in the retrial, and then the end of the movie is just her coming out of the bathroom with a positive pregnancy test as he's like moving the calendar down to June, and it's like, da, and then the movie ends. But I really don't know what to make of these people. I really just, can't get a read on. At some point, he seems to be real emotional, and then at other point, he's just like, absolutely, Echo Niner Tango. And she seems weirdly just calm and, just brain farts happen attitude. But I don't know. And I think a lot of people feel that way about this one. There's like a camp that thinks he's just a planned murderer, and then there's another camp that just thinks he's kind of a goob and just. Oh, yeah, one part that I thought when he's begging to not be charged at the very, very end, he's like, I've never had domestic violence. He was like, I don't have any other children under my care. It's like, that's kind of weird, right? Yeah, you don't because you killed the one. That's why we're all here. And at one point when he's talking to his wife when she's in there, she's back arched in his lap. And, oh shoot, I just forgot what I was going to say. Darn it. It was a really weird thing to say to her. Well, I can't remember. Darn. Maybe I'll watch it again and put it in the next one. But anyway, do I think this guy should get a new trial? I haven't watched the first trial, but I think according to for the interrogation, I don't know if it would hurt. I know it's a lot of money to spend on a new trial, but I don't know. I just really have no idea. Let me know what you guys think. I saw a lot of people in the comments saying they were there from True Crime Loser. So let me know what you guys think. I read a couple comments. Someone was saying they're 20 minutes in and they're positive he's guilty. And then I saw another comment on the last video I did saying that they were halfway through watching the whole trial and they were leaning towards the defense. So I think this one's cut pretty much down the middle. But it's a weird one. Just the way that they're so calm, I would get like shivers. Like, oh, do they know what happened today? But anyway, I'm out. See you next time. Why? Stiving why? Absolutely.